Ben, congratulations on making the team. And at what point did you know that you made it, and what's that feel like after having been out since 2014?
Yeah, the team puts it on your program back in November, so it's it's your goal, but you're on a list of 13, 14 riders that all want to be here. So it's not a given necessarily until you get that phone call, a week or two before the race. So I'm really proud to be here, looking forward to it.
And in your words, it was huge honor, huge responsibility. So from the responsibility standpoint, what does that mean to you?
From the responsibility standpoint, I think all of the partners and sponsors of the team itself, everyone just invests so many resources into the Tour de France. For a lot of the Americans watching at home, this might be the one bike race that they religiously watch every year. It's really their only relationship to cycling. Other races, I've already raced probably 45 times this year, but nobody knows about those races, and they're hard. Mm-hmm. They're the top level races, and then comes the Tour de France, something that everybody knows. So even talking to people that I meet on an airplane, for example, when I have to describe what I do. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a cyclist. Okay, so like dirt bikes, or no, like the Tour de France. So it's good when I can actually say, oh, have you done the Tour de France? Yes, yeah, I'm doing the Tour de France. So yeah, it's really exciting to be here. But also I know that this is a one race that a lot of people watch, and everyone invests so much in it. There's obviously having made their selection, and there's hopes that you will be able to deliver on your potential, and the reason that you're here in the first place is to perform. So there's that responsibility that comes along with it.
Right. Do any of those people that asked you what you did have any idea that you'd won 2 stages at the Giro?
No, sometimes, yeah. The Vuelta last year, yeah. So, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. People who follow the sport, people who know, American cycling fans generally know, but people who are not typically fans of cycling throughout the year, they still know the Tour de France. So,
and what did those wins mean to you? As I recall in the interview, you said this was a lifelong dream of mine to win stages at a Grand Tour.
Yeah, it's something that I couldn't have even, back when I was a junior racing, I couldn't have even fathomed it. Just to be in these races in the first place is a dream come true for me. But then to I feel like throughout my career I've had this potential that's just been building and building and building, and every year I look at my power numbers and they're getting higher and higher and higher, and I'm like, okay, well, when is a breakthrough coming? And last year was just a massive reward for years and years of hard work to finally cross the line in first place in one of the biggest races of the season. I've had other wins here and there, but to win in a Grand Tour is something really special.
Mm-hmm. And if that was a lifelong dream to win a stage at a Grand Tour, where does winning one at the Tour de France fit in the dreamscape?
Yeah, I mean, after having won the second stage in the Vuelta last year, I started to think about, okay, so what's next? I had made winning a stage of a Grand Tour a career goal. I like to set challenging but achievable goals for myself to kind of chart my progress and keep me driven during training, something that when I don't feel like getting up and going training gets me out of bed and gets me out on the road doing the work. If I can think about that objective, that goal, then I can kind of put my feelings to the side a little bit. So, yeah, now I think I've won stage in the Vuelta, so now I'm here at the Tour de France, another Grand Tour. Keep checking boxes. That's, yeah, I mean, it's something that I think every rider on the start line dreams of.
And now you've got Cav that's not part of the team. Since 2016, it has been a sprint-driven team. How do the ambitions and how does the character of Dimension Data change in this edition of the tour?
I think our objectives in this tour are just to be in the race every day. You know, we still have sprinters, we still have climbers, and we still have kind of breakaway guys. We'd like to be in the mix every day. You know, Eddie's won a bunch of sprints before. Nizzolo's got a few sprint wins this season. I think that we just want to be in the mix, in the action, and be, you know, have kind of an opportunistic approach to racing this year.
And speaking of being opportunistic, as we were just talking before we started talking here on camera, getting into a breakaway hard enough. That breakaway to succeed, all the more difficult. Some people say it's like 300 to 1 to win from a breakaway. What is the art? I mean, those are the numbers, but what is the art of getting into and winning in a breakaway?
Yeah, getting into the breakaway in the first place, it is tactical, because you have to see what are the objectives of the other teams. You have to look at which teams are interested in going the breakaways and follow those guys, because you know if they're not there, then they're going to chase it down and send someone else up the road. So you try to watch those guys. You look at which teams are interested in controlling the race and blocking the road. But then again, a lot of times it's also just rolling the dice. So you try to make calculated decisions, but also take chances, take risks. And then you have to have pretty massive explosive power to make the gap in the beginning when the peloton's already racing along full speed, just to get in the breakaway. Once you're there, you have to assess which riders you're with, what type of terrain is coming toward the finishes, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your opponents, and how do you play that to your advantage.
I mean, do you have to be good? I mean, once you're in the break and it's established, and you got a bunch of guys that want to, for a period of time, work together, and then all of a sudden it gets fractured, do you have to be a good negotiator in there? What are the personal qualities you need to kind of outsmart that finite group of guys?
It helps to be the strongest guy, but definitely working together is important for the breakaway to even have a chance at getting a result at the end of the stage. It's essential that everyone's working together, pulling their weight. Sometimes you'll see guys trying to skip turns sitting on the back, and then the organization of the entire breakaway just completely falls apart, and you quickly lose minutes to the chasing peloton. So if everyone's committed and working together, then you go quite a bit further. Once everyone's doing those calculations, like, okay, now we have enough of an advantage that the breakaway is likely to succeed. Maybe one of the guys in the breakaway is trying to move up in the general classification, so they're more interested in taking time on the peloton. So they'll commit to doing a little bit more work than the rest just to keep the momentum, so that they gain more time in the overall. But in general, once everyone feels secure that the breakaway is going to arrive in the line, then they start to kind of look at each other. Everyone's trying to save a little bit, but you will have raced 3-4 hours before that point already. So the work that you do throughout the day, even in previous days, it all kind of adds up and factors into that. So guys will try to go early. Guys will trust their sprint and wait. But if you get it wrong, then one guy slips up the road, and you're left on the back foot chasing.
Right. So now that, I mean, everyone pours over the stages, the 21 stages, are there some in there that look particularly rife for the taking by a breakaway?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty well-balanced tour. You've got sprint stages and lots of mountain stages, and then also stages that really suit the breakaway. But you can't always know which stages are going to go to the breakaway, because the interests of the teams are constantly evolving based on their own situation in the race, circumstances, like maybe one of their team leaders has a crash, and then they start to focus on stage wins, so they might pull back a breakaway that otherwise would have had a chance. So one team's decision can determine whether or not the breakaway makes it to the line. Oftentimes if a team has a yellow jersey, they'll be happy to let a breakaway go up the road and take the bonus seconds and things like that. So those are days when, if Ineos is in control, they're not interested in stage hunting. They're looking to win the overall. So if they're in control, I think then, like last year, you see a lot more breakaways with chances to succeed.
All right, we'll look for that. You are one of 4 Americans in this tour. Is there a bond out on the road among you four?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually lived with Chad Haga and Joey Roscoff in Lucca, and I've known TJ since I was a junior, so we all go way back and have really good relationships. So, I mean, not that there's going to be too much time to chat amongst each other on the road, but definitely friendly faces to have around.
Are there enough Americans out on the road in this tour, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the more the better. I love this sport, and I love racing in America, so the more interest that we can attract from Americans, more new fans that we can attract to the sport, I think the better for everyone.
I mean, I think put another way, I think people are saying, only 4?
Yeah.
So how do you explain that?
I don't, because it's not my job. When, one day when I have a team, then I'll hire Americans and send them to the Tour de France. We have a lot of talented Americans coming up, even in the junior ranks, a lot of depth. So I think the trajectory of American cycling still looks good.
You had a particularly nice thing to say about Chad and his victory in the time trial. When you have American success out there, what does that do for you personally?
I think just when a friend gets a victory, you root for each other. I wasn't in the Giro, so and I wouldn't have been competing for the victory on a stage like that anyway. So I love to see one of my good friends get a chance like that. Is something really special. So, I know what it means to him as well, like having such a strong relationship with him, knowing his wife and how hard he works, and what that victory will mean for the rest of his career. It's a result like that stays with you for your life. So it's not just on to the next one. It's something that can change his life. So.
Right. Yeah. It was a super emotional reaction.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Looking at this, I'm going to ask for your opinion on this tour in general. Everyone is calling it open. Froome's out. Geraint Thomas, kind of don't know about. Does it feel open to you in terms of the general classification?
I think we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Nobody really knows where Geraint Thomas is right now because he crashed out of the Tour de Suisse. So there are question marks around that, but Bernal obviously showed that he's flying. So, they have kind of a two-pronged approach, and we'll see how they play it. Movistar has a strong team for the overall. Nibali was looking good. It's going to be interesting. Yeah.
Does it not? I mean, on the surface, it does feel like it's more open than in years past, where it felt like there was going to be a Sky now Ineos juggernaut. Does it feel different, or do you think that is just a false impression and that Ineos still has a stranglehold on this thing?
Again, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see because there are so many question marks, and obviously they have a lot of strength and a lot of depth, even while Pols is, riding incredibly well right now. So, and the riders that they have here in support are capable of controlling any type of stage in the race. So, if they want to control, they can. Will they be in a position that they need to control? That's what we have to wait and see. So, and if they do control, nobody's just sitting back and letting Sky take the race. It's still, it's always an open race because anything can happen. How many times have you seen the favorites crashing or just having a bad day? So many things can happen. It's a month of racing, so for everything to go right for one specific rider on one specific team for all 21 stages is something pretty miraculous in and of itself. So, to come through the tour unscathed and to have the best legs every day takes a lot. Takes a lot going in your favor. So, it's always open.